Welcome to the Aspin Shed once more. It's been an eventful 2 or 3 weeks with the lathe and the problems I've had. Unfortunately, I haven't felt in a mood to record all the troubles because it seems to have progressed from one trouble to another trouble. Anyway, suffice it to say, today it's running again. I've got a few more jobs to do in the workshop, which I'll explain about. That's why we're in a bit of a mess. If you could see what I could see, you'd have a dicky fit. Anyway, what's the camera doing now? I don't know. So, oh, it stopped. Right. In the last video I explained that I'd had trouble with the bearings in the headstock of my Chester DB10 Super B, which I think is similar to a Seig 6 and other Grizzly and Precision Matthews lathes. They're all of the same ilk with slight variations. Anyway, as I've said before, I was happy with the lathe. It does everything I want. It's got cross feeds, it's got everything you need. Anyway, we solved the problem with the headstock. We fitted new bearings and it ran like a dream. I could once again machine metal as I'd always done before. I had no problems with the chatter and the howling and everything else. The chatter was so bad I was getting patterns in the I don't know if that will show up, but that section there, I don't know if you can see it. Almost like knurling, it was that bad. Anyway, we've overcome that. It now machines, and it'll machine heavy cuts, light cuts, anything you care to throw at it, it machines. Anyway, having started on that, we were merrily cutting away when there was a bit of a flash from this area. Lathe shut off, it tripped me breaker, so I reset everything and it came back on and was working perfectly well for a while, and I was in the process of parting off, and suddenly the lathe leapt into high speed. I had to hit the stop button to stop it, and every time after that, every time I started it, it just was full speed all the time. It wouldn't, you had no speed control whatsoever. Let me just reposition the camera a little bit. Yeah, I had no speed control whatsoever, and obviously you can't do any machining, so I had to. It's very difficult in this workshop because it's so small. I can't get to the back of the lathe, so I have to make a contrivance and a table to swing the lathe out so I can get to the back of it and have a look at the speed controller. Anyway, what I decided to do, because the speed controller had gone west, was fit a VFD. I don't know if you can see that. VFD. And so started another long job of wiring, learning, until we got the VFD running. And believe it or not, within a few days of getting the VFD running, I started to get problems. It started switching itself off. Anyway, without boring you with a great long story, it boiled down to the original start-stop switch that came with the lathe had taken a knock. It was one of these that looked like this originally. Start, stop, and it's latching. It's got a little solenoid in there, and it will latch when you press the on button. So if the power goes off, the lathe won't restart without you pressing the button. So first of all, I tried to buy another switch just to put in there, and of course you can get them that look like, so you actually get them in your hand. And seeing as I don't know everything in the world, there was one thing missing on this one, which is on the other one. It's a blank here, but there's supposed to be a connection, so you can run auxiliary. You can run a remote on-off switches and off switch. It's a kill switch, but this one, like this one, just latch. You can't put an external stop switch on them. If you're looking for one, make sure it's got this A1 connection here, where there is no spade in there. It's just blank on this. But anyway, this one was too big. I have got another one on the way now, but in the meantime I decided to resolve the problem myself. And so what I've fitted is, I've used the same carcass as the original. Use the same carcass, and I fitted two momentary switches in there myself. I was able to drill it out and fit those, got rid of all the guts of the original switch, and I put a contactor under my VFD. Eventually, when I get to the back of the lathe again, hopefully I'm going to be able to fit that into there. It'll be a work of art when I've done it, but that's what I'm hoping to do. Where were we? Yes, so now we've got a contactor. It switches the VFD on. I've altered the front panel. I don't know if you can see all that. Oh, there we are. I've altered the front panel. So now, before I had the digital display, or RPM, and we had control for the speed. But since then I've added forward, comme ça, and reverse, stop, and jog. So it now does everything, I think. I want it to anyway. Setting up these VFDs is a bit of a work of art. The programming of them. Oh, and the fitting of the motor as well to one of these is, I think I've got some pictures somewhere and I'll interlace with the video. Is a work of art as well. The original motor has got a 12mm shaft and a 12mm two-step pulley. God, look at the state of it. The only motor I could buy that would fit in the space is a type 71 three-phase motor, obviously, and they all come with 14mm shafts. But not only that, the original had a 40mm by 12mm shaft. The motor that come has only got a 30mm in length by 14mm. So when you haven't got your lathe running, it's quite difficult to machine an internal diameter. And the only way I could do it was with some adjustable reamers I've got, but that didn't work terribly well. It made the pulley run slightly out of true because the pulley was cast iron, but it got a keyway in it, and of course it gives the reamer a bias. When you're trying to reamer, it's catching on the keyway and cutting into the keyway before it's cutting the rest of the diameter. I got it to work in the end. I've got it fitted and it is running on that now. My main aim next is to machine another aluminium pulley with the same dimensions, but the boss on it slightly shifted so it fits on this shorter shaft better. Anyway, that's that. So we got the motor in. It's a size 71. It's 0.75 kilowatt, which is 1 horsepower. It runs at 2,800 revs. It's roughly on the slow speed a 3.5 to 1 reduction. So flat out, I'm getting, calculation is supposed to be 800 RPM, but I'm getting 781, so I've been diddled out of 19 RPM. It's quiet when it's running. It's got enough power at the minute. I haven't tried it on tapping and things, but there's more adjustments I can do to the programming of the VFD to give more torque at lower speeds. So that's it. It's up and running again. We've got VFD. I've got my safety stuff interlocked with it. It's all good. There's that much capacity in these VFDs. They take about 10 minutes to switch off after you've hit the stop button. So that's it. That's the saga of the lathe. The other thing I just wanted to say was I bought this lathe from Chester Machine.Tools. It's a super lathe. I think a lot of their tools are quite good, well, very good, and they're good value. But I made a mistake when I bought this one. I went to one of their open days and they'd got this for sale for 850 quid instead of 1200 quid for the brand new one. And being a bit of a dick, I bought this. And yes, I know a little bit about lathes, and I'd run a little mini lathe for a while, but when you come to buy one, you expect it to come with everything. And because this was on sale, because it had got superficial damage, they said, the panel here was damaged, knob there was missing, just little bits. I thought, oh, that's a good saving just for the panel and the knob. I can soon fix that, which I did. But then I found out they'd been in the back messing about with the speed controller. It wasn't wired up. So I wired it up, I got it working, but I couldn't get the rev counter working. So I wired my own in, more expense. I had to go back to get the gears, because when you buy it you don't think of every mortal thing. It was short of some gears for cutting metric threads, So I went back, they gave me them, fair enough. He gave me a back plate, he gave me a 4-jaw chuck. It had a 3-jaw on it. But of course, a month down the line or so, you come to use your reverse jaws, and of course I haven't got any for this chuck. I didn't get them. So that means it's going to be more expensive. I've got to buy another chuck. Because they're not going to have a match set of bloody jaws lying around for this, are they? So all in all, it's cost me more than the original, and I wish I've just bought the original straight off the bat, the new one, and had all the accessories and the toolbox and all the fiddly things that come with it, instead of all the problems I've had. As I say, it wasn't just the superficial damage. They'd been mucking around with the speed controller. In fact, I found out after I got the speed controller out why it wasn't functioning on the digital display. And what I'm frantically doing now is looking around to see where I put this controller, because I was going to show where the problem was. Oh, that's it, just bear with me a second. I'll be back in a second. As I said, somebody had been messing around with the speed controller. It has now gone pop completely. As I say, you can't run anything in slow speed on it. I can't see any flashes, points on the circuit. But the reason why the RPM readout wasn't working in the end, this is how I took it off. If we can get right in there, one of the pins is folded over. Can you see? This end pin is folded flat. There was no way I could see that when I was mucking around the back of it. I don't think I ever pulled that off. The wires that were off wasn't that one. Anyway, that's the end of that. It's finished. It is scrap, and if you want to buy just another controller, I think they want like 280 quid for one, and I think I paid 250 quid for the VFD, so it was no brainer, wasn't it? Go for the VFD, which I did. I think that's all for a minute. As I say, the next thing is I'm building a new bench for the lathe out of steel. It's only mounted on a timber frame at the minute, and it's cantilevered as well. Bench is cantilevered from here to over here, because I've got my bandsaw at the back and it's on a trolley, and I can swing it out, use it and swing it back underneath. So my new steel bench, I've ordered the steel. It's going to be made out of 100 by 50 box section. It's going to have casters at that far end, and it's going to have a hinge up on the wall at the back this end, which means I'll be able to trolley it right out and get at the back of it when I need to. So that's the next project next week, is welding. So I'll call it quits for now because I'm starting to ramble, and I'll speak to you later. I'm just ending it properly. I didn't want to leave you with a shot of my great big pot. So yes, this is the end of this video, and we'll be back soon.